Go ahead and call to order this meeting of the WSCS Charter School. It is 3:14 p.m. Tuesday, January 25th. Let's go ahead and have our roll call.
Mary Helen? Here. Ian Whitney?
Here.
Cody Hayes?
Here.
Lisa Paskowski? Here. Jason Smith?
Here. I'm going to go ahead to item 3, and that's to approve the agenda for today. I'm told that there is going to be one addition, and that is an action item, the review and approval of the audit report. We should all have a copy of that audit report. I'm going to suggest that we have a motion to amend the agenda to add that as action item 13. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda and approve it as amended.
A motion to approve the item, Cody.
You have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, let's move to, I guess we don't need to do roll call votes if we don't have a member.
That's true.
Okay,
You're exactly right.
okay, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. And it's been a while since we've done voice vote. Do we need to do anything specific about that?
No, that's it. Just noting, just if there's any dissent, then you're just recording that. Otherwise, if we don't hear any dissent, then it's unanimous.
Sure.
So we'll move on to action item number 4 now, and that's to approve the minutes from the November 12th and the November 12th normal meeting and the December 16th special meeting. Go ahead and take a second to. I'll entertain a motion whenever everybody's ready to approve the minutes.
Jason Smith, on motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Lisa Paskowski, second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Move on to item number 5. Are there any persons present wishing to address the board? No. Moving on to number 6, written communication. I do understand that we have had the letter from the Yosemite Unified School District. Mr. Fox, would you like to explain that?
Sure, thank you. So the Yosemite Unified Board has opted to no longer have a representative on our WSCS board. And so there's no problem there. They've always exercised that opportunity. By law, we're required as a charter to create the opportunity to leave a space for them if they want to participate. But they have opted now to no longer want to be a part of the board. And so I asked them to send something to us in writing. You now have that in front of you. I'll just read 2 short segments. The whole middle part of this, they're just quoting from our own bylaws, so I won't read that. But the opener line says, the purpose of this communication is to provide notice that Yosemite Unified School District Board of Trustees has decided not to elect a representative to serve on the board of Western Sierra Charter Schools. In the recently approved Glacier High School Charter School, it states the following, and then it's quoting our bylaws. And then down at the bottom, the district has chosen to not have a YUSD board member serve on the WSCS Board of Directors. If you have questions or would like to discuss the matter further, please contact me directly. So that's that. And basically, they came to understand what is true, and that there is at least a perceived conflict of interest when the authorizing district has somebody sit on our board. And that really sort of dawned upon them, and they no longer want it to be implicated that way. So it's good. Bernie has been a great board member, and when this happened, he's a neat guy, and his law background is very valuable to us, and he's very supportive. So we're going to miss having Bernie around, but that's where that is.
Agreed. Any questions or further discussion about this communication? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 7, and that is the approval of the warrant report for November 8th through January 15th. Mr. Jeffers?
Yeah, I really don't have anything particular to say unless there's questions. We're always ready to answer questions this evening.
Take a few moments just so everyone has a chance to go through the report and have a chance. A couple moments. Okay. Unless there's any questions or need for discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve the warrants, the warrant reports.
Jason Smith, I'll motion to approve.
Do you have a second?
Mary Mellon, I second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. All opposed, say nay. Hearing none opposed, the motion passes. We move on to action item number 8, and that is the approval of our anti-nepotism policy. Mr. Collins.
So this was introduced to the board at the November regular meeting. And the purpose of the anti-nepotism policy is to ensure that hiring and supervision of employees is fair and that there are no real or perceived conflicts of interest in that regard, and to keep an appropriate arm's length in regards to the authority of hiring and supervising and who the employees are. So that's what this policy is really all about. I think the action of this is contained down in the first paragraph towards the bottom. The anti-nepotism policy components basically makes 2 provisions. It says this: WSCS prohibits participation in the selection of an applicant for employment by anyone who has a personal relationship with the applicant. Additionally, WSCS prohibits the direct or first-line supervision of an employee with whom the supervisor has a personal relationship. So we do have people in our organization that are related. We have parent and child, we have husband and wife, but nobody that's in a vertical relationship of authority in any of those cases. And so we presented this last time and we were seeking your approval today.
Does anybody have any questions about the policy? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion at this point to approve the anti-nepotism policy.
Jason Smith, I'll motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Lisa Paskowski, second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. All opposed? Hearing no opposition, motion passes. Moving on to number 9, this is the approval of the harassment, discrimination, intimidation, and bullying policy.
Yes, so this was brought to you at the last board meeting as an info item, and we are just seeking approval. So as a reminder, the harassment, discrimination, intimidation, and bullying prevention policy is a state law. It mandates the board to adopt a policy prohibiting discrimination, harassment, intimidation, and bullying based on protected characteristics as set forth in California Penal Code and California Ed Code. So it is California state law. We have this policy.
Any questions from the board about the policy or discussion? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the policy. Do I have a first?
Jason Smith, motion to approve.
Okay, do I have a second?
Vote against the second motion.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, motion carries.
Great voices.
Proceed that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, different. Okay, now, moving on to number 10, the approval of the revised Title IX policy.
So Polly, can I start and
Yes.
then hand to you? So at our last meeting in November, you all approved the Title IX policy and procedures. However, there had been much modification to that policy with the former administration, federal administration. And it was always in question of whether those changes that the Biden administration had put into Title IX would stand. And lo and behold, they didn't. And so now a recent decision from a federal circuit court basically vacated all of the Biden administration's additions into the Title IX policy. And now with that administration gone, there's no chance that those things are going to go back in. And so now we are bringing to you the modified Title IX policy that doesn't have the recent additions, if that makes sense. Polly, anything to add to that?
No, the grievance procedures are essentially the same. The biggest change is that the court held that the 2024 regulations did not transform Title IX's protection against sex discrimination into a protection against gender identity, essentially. So that language has been removed in the policy.
Are there any questions from the board about the revisions? At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the revised Title IX policy.
Jason Smith, motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
Any further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. No opposition, the motion carries. Move on to number 11, the approval of the Western Sierra Charter School Safety Plan for 2025 to 2026. Mr. Tolton?
Thank you very much. Good to be here. The comprehensive school safety plan, as I'm in charge of it, it's nothing new. The board approved basically the rendition from last year. We have some minor variations this year. It's generally the same thing. As far as I'm concerned, I treat this as a living document, so if there are any updates in policy, those are included as the year goes on. Most of the policy all the policies that you're approving are going to be included in this. The CSSP is something that is legislated by the state. We are required to have one because of our total school population is less than 2,501. We only need one school safety plan for both school sites. The school safety plan is very standardized in nature, where there isn't a need to be specific to the different locations. We definitely have two very different locations with different threats and dangers. Why we have it, it makes us look at our safety plan. Honestly, there's a template that I used for the past 2 years that's provided by the California Department of Education. That is my guide to make sure that we are consistent, we are standardized with the state requirements. We have included all of those. We've also included a tremendous amount of training. What's really important about the school safety plan is everything that goes underneath the hood, lack of a better, greater term. We have plans in place that don't need to be shared with the public. So the comprehensive school safety plan does not include those emergency plans. They are available for private review, if anyone so chooses. There are a lot of things with law enforcement and first responders that just logistically the school safety plan does not meet very well. One of those things is that we're supposed to provide our entire plan to law enforcement for their review, which we do, at least we provide that offer to them. What I've created in both Oakhurst and Fresno is that we've created resources that are readily available if there is ever an emergency that happens, that we can share with them on site so that they have real-time information and it's not stuck at some sergeant's desk somewhere where they don't know where it is. So I think that's pretty important for our actual response. Like I said, it's the base of our safety plan. Many effective and important tools do not belong in the public version, and a separate resource available for emergency responders. It's predictable, preventable, you can have current bill. So along with that,
Just for clarification, Nick, for the board's benefit, when you say that parts of the plan just aren't for public, can you clarify why that is so the board understands that?
yeah, so we don't want bad guys to know how it is that we're gonna respond because we don't want a second side of conflict. If we do have something here, we don't want someone to know where it is that we're going to go to be safe. We do have those plans, they are arranged. They're not for public dissemination.
Thank you.
Same thing, it's mandated by state, it's a living document, it is constantly improved. We're at least, I'm not going to say like, this is the plan, we're gonna stick with it. Foolishness. If we have something better and we have experience that tells us that we need to change and improve, we are going to. This is a slight variation from what it was the board approved last year. These are some of the additions that were made, that were included in the template. We now have the suggestion to create a multidisciplinary threat assessment team, which is we get a lot of friends together who know what's going on at the different sites. And we talk about being proactive and looking how it is that we're going to assess not just environmental, but personnel issues. They asked us to use a standardized emergency management system. FEMA sponsors a course that helps support that. It's basically an organizational structure, how communication is supposed to go. Updated files on non-sensitive safety-related materials, naloxone, fentanyl misuse is a big thing, especially in the Central Valley. We actually started a program before it was mandated. We've actually had this on site, as much of a shame as it is to have, we were ahead of the curve as far as legislation goes and making sure it's available. Policies and procedures for bullying, just talked about that, and then notifications to families for emergency services. So we do have a system set up for mutual support between Oakhurst and Fresno, that if we do need to communicate in traumatic events, we have those abilities to do so. Most of the planning that's been done is not in a stressful situation so that we don't have to try to figure something out when it's challenging to do so. School safety improvements, Oakhurst is constantly improving. Got some great stuff going on. I saw the reorganization of the entryway, I thought that was great. We're constantly looking at the property management here, not just for security purposes traditionally, but just the upkeep of the building and maintenance, making sure that we're providing a safe environment for all of our employees, families, students, for the privacy around the fencing. We're trying to work on authenticity too. We realize that staff and our structure, we don't always have someone to look over something at all times. So we're trying to create a process where and habits where folks know where to go, and it kind of takes the load off of staff. So we want a proactive approach. We're going to be spending a lot of time identifying trends and challenges based on data available. We're still using staff reporting form. We have so many fewer entries this year than we did last year. I think that's great. Establishing a culture, establishing habits, establishing expectations seems to be going really well. Excuse me. We also have Securely, which is a great tool because so much of what students use these days is digitally based. We really walk a great line, I think, between providing security and independence and paying attention to the things that need to be paid attention to. IT staff's done a great job. Ryan Docker up in Focus has done a great job monitoring that and monitoring as well. We're really looking for those big things that are indicators of a greater problem. And then also developing ways to prevent and mitigate the causes. Not just, hey, we've got a problem, but how can we address the situation that's causing that problem to happen as well? Major corporate programs, mental health, athletic and active opportunities. All of this is great stuff. Really proud to be part of all the good stuff that's going on to support the teams. Preparing to react, building a relationship with the emergency responders. We had some Fresno Police Department doing some background investigation, which was great. We love seeing them here. And we sold them cinnamon rolls on the way out the door. Adding sites to emergency notification list. So if there's ever police activity, we want to make sure that we are contacted. These are some of the luxuries that larger school districts and systems have. We are very actively raising our hand and saying, don't forget about us. We're important, we're doing great work, so please let us know about something going on. We've also been in touch with county emergency notification in both Madera and Fresno. Establishing communication protocols and templates, mutual aid systems between the different schools, and so reaching out to other charter schools who have very similar situations as we do, and learning best practices from them. Real-time tools and information to share at critical incidents. So the CSSP, the Comprehensive School Safety Plan, 63 pages long. It's a lot of words from a law enforcement perspective. They don't like to read that much. They want pictures. So what we've done is we've actually created digital tools and resources that are available on laptops and cell phones. So if someone wants to say, hey, we need to make entry into a room, we actually have a video of the room so they can see where it is that they're going to go. So we can give them a bit of a virtual walk before they have to do their job. And then we also have ways to provide temporary access to the Verkov system. Like I said, all those things are things that are under the hood that are not for public dissemination. Just leave what we've got. So, any questions?
I did actually have a question. It's on page 51, and it's talking about medication in school.
Yes.
Maybe I missed it, but I didn't see anything surrounding like life-saving devices for students who require medications like rescue or EpiPen. I didn't know if there was a policy for like if those students need to carry it on, is that permitted, or do they also need to keep those locked in a cabinet?
So we looked through our medication policy. We're trying to find the best way because we do have a different system. I think emergency inhalers up to a certain age can be approved for the students to carry it themselves. If they're having an issue, they need to come and check in with me and get it and let's find the keys. Like that's not approved. Mm-hmm. For those situations, we do have EpiPens, we do have AED systems, we do have rescue breather masks, non-rebreather masks, mounted throughout the building. We have first aid kits in both buildings. We have a lot of resources, probably to the point where people are starting to giggle at how much first aid stuff that we have, but I love it.
Great, yeah.
Well, yes, to answer those, we do have the policies in place, and we also have the materials in place to provide first aid, immediate emergency care. Okay,
and students are permitted to keep those on them if they have a prescription?
Yes, if they have a prescription, I just want to be clear that if an inhaler is one thing, if someone is bringing like a pain management system,
right,
that is not covered
Mm-hmm.
under that particular kind of thing.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Any other questions about the plan? Okay, at this time I will approve, or will entertain a motion to approve the safety plan.
Jason Smith, I'll motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Mary Allen, second.
Any further discussion on the plan? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. Move on to number 12, and that is an action item, approval of files for instruction. Mr. Cox.
Yes, thank you. There's two items related to this in your packet. One is a letter that speaks to what Class 3 records are. There are obviously laws about file destruction, what files must be kept, how long they must be kept. And so you have a document included here that says the attached list of documents is considered to be class 3. Those records have been retained for the legal period of time as per article and section of Title 5 California Code of Regulations. And there is no further need to retain these records for our use. And there is actually need to move them along for space storage. So the vast majority of these records are labeled student files. Those are our attendance files, where if you are a parent in one of our schools, this is the documentation that your advising teacher is keeping, taking work samples and setting a work record and all of that. And so we keep them for the appropriate period of time, and then we destroy them so that we can, we don't have a whole lot of space to store this. So that's why. So this comes to you as a board basically every year, and you can see we're working on the year 2021 at this point. So.
Are there any questions about the file set for destruction? There's not. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the indicated file for destruction.
Jason Smith, I'll motion to approve.
Here a second.
Lisa Benskowski, a second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. And it looks like the secretary just needs to sign that. We don't need to sign anything for this.
That's correct.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the item 13, which has been amended into the agenda, and that is the review and approval of the audit report. Mr. Jeffers, I believe you're going to explain this to us.
Yes. So I will go through this document. So the audit report comes from auditors, of course, and I'm just going to share my screen, and I'll give you a highlight tour, unless you really want to see it. No, just joking. We don't have to go through all 27 pages of this or 31 pages, but I'll give you the highlight of this experience. So an overview, our auditors coming in and audit us twice a year. It's a one audit, but it's conducted twice a year. They come in first and do an audit of our attendance and teacher-oriented things when we're meeting. That's how we get our money, is based on attendance. So they look at all that, they look at our systems and how we're doing that. Then they come back later in the year and they audit our financials, our compliance with federal and state laws and so forth. So it's two parts. And then by December 15th, they have to issue this report, and it goes directly to the state, where it says whether we have any findings or not. There is a spoiler warning. I'm going to tell you we have no findings. We haven't had any for a decade now. So we have no letter issues. So it always makes me happy to hear that. So let's just go through the beginning and share this. Okay, so let me be a little bit bigger. I'm just going to say highlights. So opinion in this section here. The first paragraph, we have audited the company financial statements, and we find them to be in conformity and with the rules, and also that they are, in our opinion, the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. So that's good. That's an opinion you want to have. So basis for their opinion, they go through and explain how they do it. They talk about how we have to interact with them and give them information, and they ask us questions, and it's an interactive iterative process. That's all on page 1 and page 2 and 3. And then I'll just go straight to page 4. Which is this page showing our assets. So for people who are used to seeing this, since this is a governmental presentation, it looks weird for most people who are looking at it from like the normal. There's income statement, and then there's assets and liabilities and income statement. This looks different, but I'm going to try to highlight the important bits that are easy to see. Total assets, it shows 3 schools, so it has almost $4 million for Mount Home, $1,158,000 for Glacier, and then Endeavor has $2,898,000. Of that, cash is a significant portion, obviously. The cash you can see there, 2.5 million for Mountain Home, Glacier has 800,000, and Endeavor has 2.4 million, almost. You can see that there, that's a lot of cash to have at hand, which is good. That's what we want to have. Because as you know, we're paid in arrears, as I always say, so you have to have cash because they hold the cash until after we spent it. So we need to spend it first and then they're paid, we get paid for it after the fact. So that's why we have cash. This is as of the end of the year, so this is when things are settled down, mostly. There's still some outstanding items at the end of the year, but this is about the point in time where things are as normal as they can be for looking at it. Now, toward the bottom of the page here, sorry. Excuse me, up here. Click the wrong thing. Shoot. Right, sorry. When they're at some large, this is hard to go slowly. There it is. I want to the second page. Okay. So of the net assets shown at the bottom, this shows the board designated, these are, my cursor down here and moving around. Okay, so this is what I'm looking at. So board designated reserves, so there's economic uncertainties, these are things the board approved last year, and they haven't changed. So there's economic uncertainties, which is just a reserve in case things go badly. And that's basically about 5% of what we want to put aside. And then there's facilities acquisition, capital projects, which is showing what we think the cost is going to be for those items in the future. So those two items taken out, then we have undesignated, that's items that's the amount that we have that's not designated for something else in particular. Now, the one thing that's odd about this is it also shows our fixed assets in this number. So in other words, property and equipment is in that undesignated, which is misleading in my opinion, but that's the way it's presented. So that also includes a fixed assets. I'll show you what that is later. So it's not really that big. We don't have another $1.5 million in cash sitting around in that section and 400,000 and 233,000. I just want to state that. That oftentimes confuses our authorizers when they see that number, and they always want to ask, what is that? Because they don't do accounting the way we do, because we are a nonprofit, and so we're required to show it this way. They don't do it that way. They do it governmentally, and so they don't show the fixed assets the same way we do. So it ends up being a little point of contention. But I say, hey, we're required to do it this way, but let me explain it. And it's also explained in the financial statements, in the notes. So I just do want to say that in case anybody's wondering when they look at this, going, oh, that seems, why isn't that the same as the other number? That's why. Okay, so let's go on to page 11. It is different looking on here than it is on the piece of paper here, so hold on. Okay, so here's property and equipment. And everything on page 8 forward is going to be notes, and the notes are really important. They sound like they're not that important because they're just notes, but these are footnotes to the information, so to the presentation, so that's where you get all the detail. So you can read through that. If you're ever wondering exactly what we're all about, this is a really great place to look, because it gives all the background information and what all the particulars are. But here's property and equipment for the 3 schools, okay? So we have Mountain Home as land of 322,000, buildings and improvements of 859,000, and then equipment of 254,000. So there's $1,446,000. Then depreciation is taken out of that to get a net. So depreciation is just how much less that stuff is worth over time because it loses value over time. Land does not depreciate, but everything else does. And so that net of depreciation for Mountain Home is $1,005,000, Glacier partakes, has part of those ins and outers. So that's the Glacier's portion is shown there of those items. And then Endeavor does not own its building or land. And so, though the buildings and improvements, there are things like cabling and other things we've done to this place. And we're supposed to show that as like leasehold improvements. So that's what that is. And then there's the equipment, about 65,000, that was either brought here or purchased since its opening. And then the accumulated appreciation is shown on there. And so there's the net numbers. So that's the net numbers you would take out of that other number to get to the actual reserves that are undesignated. All right. So let's go on page 20. See, moving right along. Lots of notes there. And like I say, if anyone has any questions, please ask. Yeah, okay. So this is page 20, and this is showing the scheduled expenses by state categories. So these are the categories that basically I show you also when during the monthly updates. But this is it as of June 30th, 2024 for that fiscal year. So that just shows all the expenditures according to the categories. Certificated salary, classified salaries, benefits, books and supplies, services and other expenditures, and then there's the depreciation for that year. And that just gives you the total, it's the income statement shown by the categories that the state requires. Both expenditures based on that. So then we'll move on. All sorts of things in the other pages there. Like I said, please look and ask questions at a later date if you like, because I know there's a lot. Then I'll just go to page 29. So it says here on item 1, the type of auditor's opinion issued is unmodified. That's good, because you don't want them to modify it. It's stated as it is intended to be, so that's good. The opinion on all of the federal awards, since we don't get any federal awards, that's not applicable. And then toward the bottom, it will say state awards, unmodified, and there were no internal control over the state program weaknesses or deficiencies found, so that no note on that. Then the next page is blank because there were no findings in the current year, which was great. And then the next page after that, there were no findings in the current year or prior years, so that's Yay.
Thank you for that information. It's a lot of information. Does anybody have any questions or anybody need more time to look over the report? Okay, then at this time I'll entertain a motion to approve the audit report.
For the basic.
Is there a second?
Jason Smith, I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. Moves on to amended item 14, and this is the first interim overview and budget.
Okay, that is me again. So here we are on the screen. I put all 3 schools on here, and I'll try to summarize a little bit. All right, I'll just move over as we go. See if I can get that to you. Okay, well, I'm sorry, that's bad. Is that okay for now? Okay, and you have this in your report, so you can look down if you can't see it up there. This is, these are very large reports. This is the interim report that's as of October 31st. And as a background, we do 2 interim reports that we give to the state and to our authorizers. One on October 31st. Well, actually, it's due December 15th, just based on October 31st. Then we will do one soon. They will be based on January 31st. And then at the end, there is another one before the end of the year, and then there's the final that goes out, the unaudited actuals. And then our auditors come in and audit us and make, then we come up with the audited one we just saw. So there's 4 different types of financial reports that get handed out. This one is pretty comprehensive in that it asks multiple questions. It shows you the financial stuff in the first box. If you were to see this, when you, and we have those files as well, but the first section is about 40 pages long on finances. Then the ADA section is the second box down. And then there's cash flow. And cash flow is just for the current year. And then there's a multi-year projection which shows first year is already on there because it's financials for the current year. Then it shows year 2 and 3 out, which is the bottom box down there. So I'll try to explain that in better detail as we go. So this section here of each one of these reports is going to be actuals today. Not super important because, as we know, at this point, we're paid in arrears. It looks bad. It always looks bad at this point in the year because we're negative everywhere. We didn't get the cash in we expected. We have more expenses than income. And that's why we have reserves. So then, but it had projected year totals, which is here, here, and here for each of the schools. And so what this is going to show is, given as of 10/31, there's been budget updates at that point based on the original budget, and then you sort of adjust as you go forward, going, oh, that's a little higher or lower than I thought. And then so the projected year totals are the more important one. For Mountain Home, it's showing a loss, well, a negative. It's a negative number of 247,000. That is because of the expenditures we expect to have for the construction that we're doing. And we talked about that. And so you're aware of that. And then the same thing for Glacier, showing 162, same issues. For Endeavor, it's showing a net positive of 286,000. That's really, they're not going to have any of that happening. So they're just having, that's like the, that's the net income over expenditures that's projected through the end of the year. So that, it should be positive, obviously, if you don't have any really big expenditures coming up with for construction or something like that. So then it shows the fund balance, the projected fund balance. That'd be $2,188,000 for Mountain Home, 539,000 for Endeavor, for Glacier, excuse me, and then $2,320,000 for Endeavor. And then if you look at this section, this is, I put a percentage here of what the balances are for our reserves. So the assigned reserves for Mountain Home School represent 55% of the total amount of expenditures in that year. So what that tries to show you is our reserves are worth half of the amount that we spent in a whole year. Okay, so 6 months worth of expenditures. For Glacier, it's 26%. And then for Endeavor, it's 29%. Now, the reason they're different is because Mountain Home's been around for, the longest, 32 years now. So it's had a lot longer to gain reserves. Now, when Endeavor was created, we did transfer assets over to Endeavor through a process of, it was a complicated process, but we did give Endeavor assets at that point, or else they would be way below this current number. So we took assets from the 2 schools that already existed at that point, because remember, Endeavor was the resource center, excuse me, Endeavor was the 2 resource centers for Mount Home and Glacier. So it seemed only fair to move over assets to Endeavor based on their ADA at the time that they represented. That wasn't normally done, but I worked it out through the state to do that because it wasn't fair that Endeavor was being charged. So then the next section down is ADA. That just shows 211, 50.53, 8150, and 335 respectively with 3 schools. We're still going to budget on those same numbers. It still looks like it's pretty close to what we expect to get at the end of the year for the revenues coming in for SCFF. Then the section down there is cash flow. So the cash flow is the beginning cash plus or minus income and expenses. Cash is cash only expenses. So in other words, what is our cash as of July 1st of this fiscal year, and what do we expect the cash to be at the end of the year? That's not an accrual, that's not all accruals back and forth, it's just what cash will be paid or received. So it's a little different number. And of course, you can't be short of cash ever, cash is king. So it doesn't matter what your expenses are, it matters how much cash you have. And so this shows what that's gonna be. Now, they're really conservative, so you'll see here, we're expecting receipts of 2.4 million for Mountain Home School. We're showing 3.182 million being expended. That gives us 1.8 million at the end. I'm just showing every conceivable expense as having been paid by June 30th. So that's just the conservative way to do it. Same thing over here for Glacier, start the Glacier 4 into 341. And this is sort of an acid test. We want to make sure that's a positive number. If you took every possible conceivable expense, you have to pay it upfront. That's what you do, and you see if you have money left at the end. And that's what we're going to have. And then for Endeavor, 3.8 million coming in, 4.18 going out, and then 1,426,000 back at the end of the year. So those are all good numbers. So year 2 and 3, down the multi-year projection, that's when you take, you project out your budget for 3 years, and then you say, okay, this is how much we expect our all of our expenses to go up. That's all the payroll expenses, that's raises, that's step increases. That's how much inflation is going to affect our supplies, our purchases, and then you put all that in. And then you look at the LCFF calculators, they're projecting what they think the state will pay us with those years, and then you project that out. And so given that, it looks like in year 2, Mountain Home will have a net increase or decrease in fund balance of 141,000. Now, we've talked about Glacier High School's right at a break even right now. They just don't break even, and as you can see, $675. That's pretty break even. And so that's what we're expecting for next year. The year after that, since that's crucial to Glacier, we're expecting $3,826 of income over expenses. So at 81 and a half kids, it's going to break even. So if we get 100 kids, we'll make if we get less than that, we'll start to lose money. But then the point is, we have a lot of reserves. And so if we have years where we are losing money, it would take a lot of those years to happen before we be in bad states there. But over time, average, Glacier has been as high as almost 120 almost in the COVID years, where everyone came to us, of course. And then as low, this is our low. 81 is about as low as it gets. It's generally about 100. So we'll see how it goes going forward. Demographically, we'll just see how it goes. Then Endeavor, over here we have them having a net increase or decrease in fund balance of 327,000. So that's based on 335, 88B. They have, as you know, they have more room, more demand than room. So that's why we're looking for a new place. So they are pretty much maxed out at their 88 this location. And so they're, based on that, they are making, next year, it'll be 327,000, the year after that, 332,000. So it's a pretty consistent number going forward. So that shows that all the schools are in pretty healthy shape. That's our first interim report for all 3 schools.
Thank you again. Sure. Anybody have any questions about the budget report or anything to discuss? No discussion. We'll move on to amended item 15. That is the mid-year LCAP. It's pretty sweet.
Right. Right, here's our mid-year LCAP report for the 2024-2025 school year. So as a refresher and for those of you maybe who are new to LCAP, so LCAP stands for the Local Control and Accountability Plan, and it's a 3-year process of connecting school-wide goals and actions with the resources available. There are, reminder. So we are at the beginning of a new 3-year cycle. So that started in the fall 2024 of this year. So today we're looking at the mid-year report for this particular school year. Last year, if you recall, we did a lot of work on LCAP because that was to prepare for the beginning of this, close out the old cycle, prepare for the beginning of this new cycle. So last year we assessed our goals, made sure they were still in alignment with our vision and mission. We determined if there were any adjustments that needed to be made to the goals and to the actions, and then we decided on indicators for those goals and actions. There are a number that we'll see on here that are not necessarily measurable points that we ourselves would want to be our greatest measures, but there are a number of state priorities that are assigned to various goals, and then we also have our own embedded as well. So our first goal is that all students will be provided high quality guidance and instruction within a broad and rigorous curriculum, necessary educational technology supports, and professional staff that will prepare them for success in college and the workplace. And so the measurable outcomes that we already have at this point for year 1 are listed here for goal 1, and those you'll see in your LCAP packets for each school. So there's 3 different LCAPs that you received. There's one for Mountain Home, one for Glacier, and one for Endeavor, and they are very closely aligned. There's a little difference in that Endeavor, there's a way that it's called out for unduplicated students that's a little bit different on goal 1, a few of the actions. So that would be the difference in numbering there. But the data that we can already look at for goal 1 are our credentialed teachers, aligning our curriculum to the state standards, programs and services for our English learners, statewide assessment results, college and career readiness indicators, and programs and services for unduplicated pupils and our students with exceptional needs as well. Goal 2 is all students will be provided a safe, clean, secure, and healthy school with opportunities for student engagement within a positive school climate. And these measurable outcomes that we have available already are our FIT score that comes out in the SARC data, our attendance rates. We look at the chronic absenteeism rates, dropout rates, suspension rates, and expulsion rates. And those are listed as applicable for each school. So, for example, Mountain Home's not going to have all of the high school indicators, and Glacier is not going to have all the elementary indicators. And then goal 3, school will provide opportunities for educational partners, our parents, students, staff, community members, and organizations to participate in various aspects of the educational environment to support and enhance student success. So already there are some pieces of this measurable data in place. So communication is measured by connectivity on Parent Square, inclusion of low-income, EL, homeless, foster youth, and students with disabilities. They're invited and given opportunity to engage in school decision-making as measured there by that connectivity as well. Inclusion of parents in low-income, EL, homeless, foster youth, and students with disabilities are given opportunity to engage in school decision-making. Also looking at that connectivity. And then a lot of the data for this goal in particular is not available yet because that comes out of our survey that will be administered in March. And I want to go back, and you'll notice in the column that shows where if you flip kind of near the end of the report, of each goal, it will show you the budget attachment to each of the actions. Let's see if I can pull up an example really quick. So after kind of our mid-year data, there's a narrative about each of the actions. And so most of them, you'll see that you can't see my screen here. Most of them you'll see that it is partially, there we go. It's gonna be marked as partially implemented, and that's because we're mid-year. So by the end of the year, they'll be fully implemented, and that will be reflected with our goals and actions, but also with the budget as well. So in summary,
Can I?
Yep.
Just jump in. I'm sorry, on the mid-year expenditures you see on the budget, so that's another weird way of putting it here. We didn't spend 576,000 of 545,000. That's the new end of the year projection, okay? So mid-year expenditures projected to the end of the year. So I just want to make sure that that's, yeah, it's another one of those oddball instructional things as they're explained, they're stated, they don't seem very clear. Yes.
But this is harmonized for the
It is.
board's benefit. The LCAP budget numbers are harmonized with our
They're all,
budgeting process.
yeah, they're projected by the end of the year, correct? That's what I want to make sure to understand, it's not, they're apples to apples. Sure.
So in summary, we are addressing currently ongoing all of our actions, and we're off to a good start to meet our goals during this LCAP cycle. So again, that was the 3-year cycle that started this fall, 2024. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you. I always impressed at how much work goes into these. Yeah, you know, it's a lot of information, but it's good to see that. Working as it should.
Yes.
So I appreciate you taking the time to settle.
And the LCAP process, an annual process, all 3 schools, it takes a lot of staff working on, but make no mistake, Grace, who is the lead on this for us, she does the heavy lifting, bringing it all together. So really well done, Grace, appreciate that. Same thing applies to what Nancy's gonna do now with WASP. Takes a lot of people involved over multi-months, and a lot of people doing good work, but again, the heavy lifting really goes to Nancy and her great organization. And then I'll just say the same thing with Nick earlier on the safety report. So yeah, we're so grateful for these staff who own this and do good work for us.
Absolutely. So that's a good segue into amended item 16, which is the WASP self-study report.
I have a few copies if anybody wants a hard copy, but I think you should have received it also via email. So.
I'm just looking down at your toolbar there, Nancy. It looks like you need to check your email.
Yeah, I can explain that later. That's just okay, this is how busy I am. Okay, so I will be presenting on Western Sierra Charter Schools WASC Focus on Learning Self-Study, and the process and an overview of our 64-page document, which is actually a good thing. Previous self-study report, I think we're probably close to 200. So this is definitely a streamlined process. Okay. In summary, the WASC writing process started actually last school year, but as an organization, we have been working towards our WASC goals for the past 6 years. When it comes to Glacier High School, that's the last time we had an accreditation visit. And 3 years ago, it was Endeavor's first visit. If you recall, Mount Home School received its WASC accreditation this past June and was approved to be part of this self-study. So as a result, this self-study represents all 3 schools. And the report has 5 chapters, and we're going to go through those, and I will be highlighting some parts of the document. Okay, so chapter 1 starts, I'm just going to go page 7. All staff were given the opportunity to contribute to our list of progress. So chapter 1 is all a progress report chapter. And we had to reflect on the goals that we established last visit. And so this was a little tricky for us this cycle, because we have Glacier goals and we had Endeavor goals. They were similar though. And so the staff also participated by providing evidence of our progress in a document that we all shared. And then the leadership team met to take progress
the progress list and then go over the evidence to add to this report. So if you see on page 7, we have for each goal, we have progress, impact, and evidence added. And we also aligned our goal to LCAP. So this is an important streamlined process that WSC now would like us to do, but it's to our benefit so that we don't end up with multiple school-wide action plans. Okay, in chapter 2, it's school data and supportive data and findings. So this is where we gather all of our data for findings. And so we partnered with Parsec for this chapter, and they're an educational data analysis company that they streamlined our preparation for chapter 2. They also helped develop LCAP goals. So earlier you heard Grace talk about the work that we did with LCAP, with Parsec and meetings as a leadership team. That all was also part of our WSC process. And some of the supportive data that we looked at was our benchmark scores with NWA, CAS, Math, and ELA. For the first time, I think we've used National Student Clearinghouse data. This is for post-secondary data and, of course, our student parent survey results. When we were done, here's chapter 2, and when we were done with chapter 1 and 2, that is also when we released those 2 chapters, because that information was needed to then move on to chapter 3. And if you can see in chapter 2, the areas that we were supposed to report on, and we did, are student demographics, performance, college and career preparation. Graduation reports were also added, and the purpose of this chapter was to identify trends and provide an analysis of the trends we are seeing. So all of these areas have documents linked to data and analysis and trends. So chapter 3 is the biggest part of our self-study. The WSC leadership team was assigned specific areas of responsibility, with each leader tasked with organizing a focus group to address key criteria questions and evaluate supporting evidence. So every staff member, for WSCS staff member, was placed in a focus group so that we can make sure we have participation, a mixed participation of all 3 schools per focus group. And these meetings were conducted virtually. We have the 5 areas, category A, and they use areas and category interchangeably, so they mean the same thing. But for the WSC self-study reports, the category A was led by Mike Cox, which is governance, organization for student learning, vision, purpose, governance, leadership, staff, and resources. Category B is curriculum, and that was led by Grace Reed. Category C, also by Grace Reed, is learning and teaching. Category D was led by Eric Hagan, that's assessment and accountability. He says the most fun category.
It is the most fun.
Mine is the most fun because category E is school culture and support for student personal, social, emotional, and academic growth. That was led by myself. And let's see, we go to the area, area A here. You can see that the way it's organized is we have criteria to review with the group. We had some leading questions, and when we met with our group, we were able to then write our findings. What do we see based on that criteria from our schools? And then we link evidence to support what we're saying are part of our findings.
Nancy, it might be kind of fun actually to click through and let them see both of the campus tour.
Oh, okay. Right now? Sure.
Sure.
I don't know if I'm set up for that, Eric, because every time I try to.
Well, you might not have sound, but we could sing along with it. I was thinking, or hum, let's talk.
Do you want me to?
No, go ahead.
Well, let me do it at the end.
All right.
Yes. Okay, so at the end of each section, each category, there is, forgot that category is the longest, that's what we assign it. Okay. We end up with a list of strengths of our school and then a list of growth needs. And so every category has this similar outlined. And chapter 3 has an additional area at the end, and it's called prioritize areas of growth needs from categories A through E. So this is, I think, in my opinion, one of the coolest parts of the report is that we take all of the areas of growth and all the areas of strength and we prioritize them. So I want to go into, here we go. So there we had a variety of growth areas, and we, the WSCS leadership team, met to go over all the identified areas of growth from the self-study report. We then collaborated to prioritize these growth areas based on 2 criteria. And so those were the potential impact that area of growth has on student achievement and well-being. And the other criteria is a level of effort to address this growth area. So in that case, we were able to, let me see if I can.
It's below there, if you scroll down on your right side.
Oh, yes, you're right there. We have been using this way of prioritizing growth areas since I can remember, and I don't know how many years ago, Mike introduced this format to us, and actually Parsec uses it as well. And we decided to continue, and so what you do here is every area that we identified, we placed it. And then we are left with these 4 quadrants that have different purposes. So the orange color is the do now, which means it has high impact, it's low effort. And the red quadrant is a more of a project, high impact, but it's also high effort. And so in looking at this visual, it helps us identify which areas we should address in this report. There are areas that we're already doing, they don't need to be addressed, it's just part of our ongoing improvement. And there are areas that we feel important to call out in this report so that we are accountable and we complete these goals. So this exercise was actually really fun to do once we have all of our growth areas, placing them where we feel they should go, and then evaluating which are our priorities.
You can see down in the bottom right corner, it's so helpful, you have those things there, you look at it after you do that evaluation, you can say, wow, it's a low impact and it's high effort. So then you go, why would we do that?
Right, yes.
Rethink.
Yeah, rethink.
So this is just a really good visual. It's not a WSCS visual, I'm very proud to say it's something we do and we're able to add to this report because I think it's great for us. So that's the end of chapter 3. Here we go. So chapter 4, in this chapter, we identify at least one area of strength and growth from each category, drawn from the chapter 3 focus groups and findings. These were compiled into a table you can see on the right. Utilizing the priority grid and analysis, the team identified 3 school-wide growth areas for ongoing improvement. So the strengths, we highlighted them on the top, and then we went for each category, just which one's the top one of growth. We had some time to analyze what we see in our self-study, and then I revealed that we had 3 areas of all the growth areas that we felt we should address in this self-study. And the first one is refine professional development for teachers by providing targeted training and innovative teaching strategies. And this is specifically because part of our program has become more on-site offerings than before. 6 years ago, our independent study component was probably the biggest part, but now that we have more class offerings, we see a need to provide professional development to our teachers in this area. And then the second one is to create and implement a 7th through 12th grade articulated plan for college and career guidance. Through this document, we see all the areas of improvement we've done in college and career guidance for high school. We hired a guidance counselor, we have more campus tours, we have better tracking systems, and so we've done a ton of work, but has been focused primarily in high school. So we see how the need, and data shows that we should start incorporating some of those resources to our younger grade levels. And so we address that as a need here. And then the third one, develop and implement consistent junior high grading practices aligned with high school expectations. And so an area that we saw as a need was to help our current eighth grade students transition better to our high school program and provide more accountability and more likeness to our high school program so that it's an easier transition and therefore students are more successful in high school, in first year of high school, better prepared. So after selecting these school-wide learner needs as a priority, we then have the question, are these needs, also known as growth areas, also reflected in our 3 schools LCAP? So that's the magic question, because we've done the WSCS process and we've done the LCAP process, and did we successfully align them? And that is what chapter 5 aims to answer. Yes, so all 3 school growth areas are addressed in each school's LCAP plans. So I have the areas listed in our report, chapter 5, and I've tagged which part of the LCAP it correlates for all 3 schools, so that the WSCS visiting team can see how our growth areas are also part of our LCAP. So we've successfully streamlined and unified the WSCS action plan within the LCAP for all 3 schools, creating a cohesive framework for improvement. Additionally, and so this chapter 5 is pretty easy because our school-wide action plan is our LCAP plans, are our LCAP plans. And so we just state that there with the links, and we had other data to link as well, but that's basically the bulk of chapter 5.
And I can share the video
You want to share the video?
if you'd like.
Yeah, I think it might be kind of fun.
So just really quick before you share, next steps, we are finalizing this self-study is pretty much done. I'm sure there's some things to add, links and things like that. Submitting it to the WSCS school portal and the WSCS chair. Now we're planning our virtual visit, which is scheduled Monday, March 24th through the 25th. Virtual meetings are going to include parents, students, focus groups, support staff, leadership team, and actually you, the board, and district representatives. We are also going to record a variety of on-site classes so they can see some of our classes and give live access to a few of our classes so they can have both. And even record some of our PLP meetings so they can see that wonderful part of our program. That is what happens with the advising teacher, the parent, and the students. And Mike is going to send you guys an official invite, but our board right now and district reps are scheduled to meet March 25th at 2 p.m. It's just a 30-minute virtual meeting. And if you could add those to your calendar now, that would be great. Now you can show the video. Unless are there any questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
WSCS is important for us to be a part of. It's really a validating, you can see a very thorough analysis of our educational practice, that we know who our audience is. We know what our students' needs are. We have a certain institutional maturity and capacity to understand the needs and then to meet the needs. And it validates, it analyzes and helps you create a plan for improvement in validating your professional educational practice for good outcomes with kids. It's an important process, and it's also the thing that high schools really need because it interfaces with universities, which are also accredited by Western Association Schools. So Nancy's super great at navigating us through this process, so thank you, Nancy.
Thank you. So I don't know if I have sound
Says not right there.
right, but yeah, we'll see.
Doesn't look like it.
It doesn't look.
Doesn't sound like it.
Special thank you to Brian Donker who put the video together, and also Nick Middleton who came up and did the drone footage. This is Endeavors. So Nick put that one together.
Yes, these were two, so what WASC asked was a series of pictures of our campus. And we said we can do better, we'll do videos. So that's where this came from.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions about the walk or anything else? Move on to amended item 17, and that is the introduction of the TK credential alternative authorization policy.
Thank you. So actually, the next three items on your agenda, new number item 17, 18, and 19, are all reflective of policies that we're just bringing for your information now to introduce you to them. All of these are newly required policies. And so the first up is TK teacher credential requirements or alternative to the credential. So beginning in August of next school year, it will be required that any student who is a TK student, transitional kindergarten, think pre-K, younger than kindergarten, will need to have a TK credential teacher assigned to them. That's a large task. That's like a whole credentialing process. There's no add-on that you can do for an existing multiple subject credential. However, the law allows for the local education agency, that's us, to come up with an alternative to that in lieu of having a TK credential. last bit of background on this, the way we assign students is by family to teachers. And we would not want to be in a situation where we have a 1 or 2 TK credential teachers, and now we're assigning a family's kids to this teacher, but then the TK goes over here to this TK credential. That's just not good in our model at all. So the law allows us to have alternative way of creating a qualification for TK instruction, and that's what this policy deals with. The first part in the policy is just reciting the law, and then if you look down on page 1 to the bottom, all of those bullets at the bottom of page 1 and that carries over to page 2 are other alternative experiences in an educational setting that we would deem as corollary to 24 units for TK education credential. So if you look down there at the bottom, we would say that if somebody has served already as an advising teacher in our organization for a TK student, we would say that is qualifying for TK credential purposes. Or if they've served as a lead or assistant teacher in a TK or preschool program in a prior job, or in a substitute in such a program, or in a daycare setting that includes TK or preschool age children, or after school program, like it goes on like that. So what we're saying is we see and value an equivalency of experience working with students who are 4 years old as equal to 24 classroom units in TK instruction. We think it's actually pretty sensible, at least staff does. As we bring it to you, it will be left up to the board of whether you think that's sensible or not, but that's what we have here before you. If there's any questions, happy to talk about that.
Any questions about this policy at this time? Have some time to digest it and ask me further at the next meeting.
Then in April, we'll be bringing it back to you.
We're going to move on to the next one.
Okay. The next one is another required policy in regards to how we work with students who are deemed homeless. Again, state required. Essentially, what is in this, I believe, an 8-page document is the school has to designate a staff person who is a homeless liaison. This policy would be designating Grace Reed as our homeless student liaison for all 3 schools. And essentially what's contained here, and Grace, you can jump in if need be, that obviously a student who is homeless, or in the next policy we look at foster youth, they are in a high risk, vulnerable part of their life. And this policy is intended to ensure that the school is knowledgeable of their risk category and is ensuring that any student in that category would be getting equal service and access to all the various programs and supports that a school offers. They don't want a homeless student who may lack other necessary other needs in their life, other supports, to want to make sure that that student has access and is getting served appropriately to their need. That's basically my
Yep, that's a great summary, yep.
Okay, so that's what's in this policy for your review before we meet again. The same can be said over item, which would be item 18 now, the foster youth policy. Again, a foster youth, a student who's in the foster program clearly is at an at-risk position, sort of a long-going, stable parental situation in their life. And this policy is, again, to ensure that the school has an identified staff member who is the liaison and is keeping an eye on any students that are in that category and ensuring that they are getting the supports appropriate for them in the school setting. That's what these are.
Any questions about amended item 18 or 19 before we move on? Again, we'll have chance to revisit those later.
Yeah.
All right, everyone doing well, it's 20 to 5, and we need to break before we move on to the reports. All right, let's go ahead and move on to item 20, the report starting with the executive director's report.
Yeah, so not, sadly, not a whole lot to report here. In regards to the building, improvement projects, various building improvement projects we have going on in Oakhurst, the most immediate project would be additional bathrooms. We have, basically cleared all of the county, Madera County regulatory, building regulatory, folks, but for environmental health. And we are waiting on a stamp from them. Once we have a stamp from environmental health, to my understanding, we can get moving on this project to get bathrooms built. So that's great. Meanwhile, you, at our last sort of special meeting, allowed me to proceed in a contract with architects for the addition that we're going to add on pending legal review. We've had that legal review. There were a few comments that our attorney thought were important, and we went back and forth, shared those with the architects, and those were accepted. And so we are, I've yet to sign it. It took weeks with the holiday breaks and all, but it's prepared, it's ready to be signed. And so then they will be able to begin the drawings for the add-on in Oakhurst. And then the biggie down here, the long-term project of finding a new home for Endeavor. We had submitted not a proposal, but what is it? Letter of intent, thank you. To the owner. We didn't word back from them for a long time. About a week ago, we received from the owner a response, and we will get back to them in that response. Basically, I mean, the general idea is you definitely get a sense that the owner's not too excited about us coming in, only because it took so long, first of all, and they're pretty clear in some of their concerns that they want to address with us. They want the whole of the building leased, and we're only needing half, and so they're looking for answers to how that can happen with us occupying the bottom floor. And so we're going to respond to those things and see where that goes. And then additionally, I share this with a little bit of timidity, I think, because this has been such a long, drawn-out process. But there is a church nearby here who we have rented space for staff functions at different times. It's Westminster Presbyterian. It's an old denominational Presbyterian church here, probably less than a half mile away. And there's been back and forth talk about being able to use more space there and maybe being able to run half of our program there. But we've never been able to really get traction. They have in the past, what's changed, and the reason I'm sharing this with you now, is they have a whole building that was built and dedicated to their own preschool program that's operated there for probably 20 years. They have now closed that program down because it never, or at least it hasn't been in a long time, sustaining cash-wise. And so we are now beginning to talk to them about what that could mean if we could occupy that building. There's other space that could be shared, like we would want that building solely dedicated, 724, for our use. There are also other classroom spaces that are not very well used, or at least not highly used, that we might be able to share space with. I think ultimately with the idea that perhaps if we were to be here long term, if we could augment the space, like keep what we're doing here, but be able to augment this additional classroom space, relieve pressure here, add classrooms to our program, that might be another solution. All of that said, our next move for Endeavor, because of Endeavor's, sort of weakened, financial ability to afford actually what we really need, that the next move is in all likelihood a temporary move, something that's like a 5 or 10 year move that would allow Endeavor perhaps to roll up its enrollment a little bit further and continue to build its reserve so that in a future time, there would be the final where Endeavor goes for its permanent home. That would be where we would be looking at in the Blythe building or here locally if we're able to split the program between here and Westminster. Does that, I don't know if that makes sense, but I would be happy to, if there's any questions that raises in your mind, to address those now.
Sounds like kind of needs must.
It totally is. That little campus tour video that Nick did, he did a great job of making little look like a lot. But all of us who work here, all of the parents who come here, your kids here, we know that it's elbow to elbow. And so we have to I say it every time we're together, we have to find an alternative. We need more space. It's just, we have a lot of very crazy regulatory hoops that we have to jump to make that happen. So it would actually be exciting. I think the Westminster potential, if that was to be able to actually come to a working agreement, could be a really great possibility. So, and then finally, I won't do a raise of hands or anything, but we were hoping to have everybody do the Brown Act training by this meeting, so I'm hopeful that that's done. We wouldn't, believe me, we wouldn't make you do that if we didn't have to. We are supposed to ensure that that happens, and I do think it's probably somewhat informative and instructive for you doing the work you're doing, so I hope it was beneficial. I hope we were able to do that. We appreciate the time you put into it, so thank you.
Go on to the. Super exciting. All right, any questions for Mr. Goff? Seeing none, let's move on, Mr. Devers.
Yeah, in the interest of time, and since I just went over that, there's other reports. This report is an update, but it correlates directly to the report in Keystone. It just breaks it down into more categories. So unless there's any questions on that, and I'm always open to answer them at a later time, if I like, I just don't think there's any reason to go through it one more time.
Sounds fair to me. All right. I will go on to Mr. Slose.
Hello,
There.
can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm going to share our newsletter with you. And so hopefully you can see it. Okay. Well, just to get started, this is a picture that's on our newsletter. So Hannah Ferris is an 8th grader here at Mountain Homeschool, and she won the California streaming contest last year. As one of the students says, Endeavor won it as well. So she took this picture of Mountain Home, and you can see the Northern Lights. So I wanted to share that picture with you. And so in terms of like what the teachers are doing right now, we're back at it, and so this week. For Mountain Homeschool is the first week of enrichment classes. Glacier and then all the math classes for Mountain Home have been going since last week. So like today was our first day, so campus was very busy today, had a lot of students, a lot of classes going on. We're also meeting with new families. And so, and that is, time intensive. And so we have, usually mid-year, there's some openings, people make changes, and then folks who've been on the waiting list can join us. And so, so teachers are meeting with new families. And then also it's a time where we begin to meet with, to do mid-year testing, the NWEA mid-year testing students. One of the things when we have students who are fairly below grade level, we will have a mid-year test just because we have that NWEA test at the beginning and at the end of the year to look for growth. And then if they are fairly below grade level at the beginning of the year, we will recommend a mid-year test. So we're lining up those mid-year tests with those students and then also with our new students. Let me go, and then, of course, you're all welcome to take a look at our newsletter. And I'm going to go down to some of the things we had going on with Mountain Homeschool in December. So the last time I saw you was in November. So we had our kids gift workshop, and then Mr. and Mrs. DeCarly organized that, and they did just a phenomenal job. Kids had 2 gifts and they wrap them, and then we make cards, and then they give them a surprise gift to like a loved one, like moms, dads, grandparents. And also in that month, we had about 125 parents and students go down to downtown Fresno at the Memorial Auditorium and see Annie Jr. And that was a lot of fun. And
Tell us about the star there, John.
what's that?
Tell us a little bit about the star of that show.
Oh, yes. So my daughter Campbell played Annie in the, it was a 2-weekend run, and she was one of the Annies. And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was fun watching her perform, and it was a very Christmas family fun show. And then we had, here in the community, we have the Christmas tree. They're kind of in the center of town. We have a community Christmas tree, and then every school has their own Christmas tree. And so we met there and had cookies and music, and we made the decorations there on site, and then decorated our Christmas tree. So it was very busy December for us. And so it was nice to have those 3 weeks off, and now we are back at it. So that's kind of some of the happenings since I last saw you. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
No, thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Hagan.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. I like to go up here so I can see all of your faces. So good to see you all. If you're really excited about this report, there'll be the QR code at the end, if you just really want to see this report later on. A lot of the stuff I kind of was highlighting, this is kind of just a long list. This is like since our last meeting, just a lot of the events and various things going on. Yeah, John covered a lot of these items. I'll talk a little bit more about our Christmas party and Battle of the Books here. I do want to just thank John Sloas. He does do the newsletter, and Jacob Mulick, who's one of the graphic designers and also a teacher down here in Fresno, helps design it. Always a great job on that. And then also, yes, a big thank you again to the DeCarleys and all the staff for making Kids Give such a just awesome event. I'll mention our academic decathlon, which is, I think, we've done 3 or 4 years where we took county, and they are prepping. They went on a field trip to San Francisco last week just to kind of visit the museum and art, and about half the team was sick, so that was a little disappointing. But otherwise, it was a fun event. Mr. Sloas already talked about the December outings. Glacier does an end of semester Christmas party every year, an amazing turnout every year, and they never want to really switch it up. They always do things like they have one of the big things is they make gingerbread houses, and they have to have like a story behind it, and they basically try to sell you that they have like the best gingerbread house, and then if we have judges, I get to be one of the judges. I always give extra points for Star Wars themed gingerbread bread houses. And then they also do like a gift exchange and food, and Mrs. Friesen and the ESB leadership team puts that on, and it's a really fun event. Just a congratulations to Kova Crump, excuse me. The Rotary, our local Rotary, contacted us this year, and they said, hey, you can honor one student from your school. Doesn't have to be an 8th grader. And so for Mountain Home, the staff chose Darian Kova Crump. And I'll just read kind of what I wrote and what I shared to the Rotary. He exemplifies Rotary's commitment to service above self. The teachers at Mountain Home School selected Kova for this honor because of his humble and selfless spirit in serving both students and staff. Kova frequently volunteers to assist teachers without being asked, and is currently supporting 3rd grade students in writing. His consistent responsibility and humble leadership make him an example for other students to follow. And they had a gift card for him, and kind of a little ceremony. They left it very much up to us on how we wanted to choose that person, but we just felt like he just touches so many different students and teachers, and just really represents our school well. Our 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, led by Mrs. Davis, have been practicing and getting ready for a battle of the books. And basically, in Madera County, about 18 schools participated. A team from each kind of grade level is held. And this is the team here. They had to read like 20 books, or that was the goal, is to read 20 books. And just in basically this semester. And they would do a variety of challenges related to that. Reed Lucas and Harper, 3rd and 6th grade, both earned the Coaches Award, and our 5th and 6th grade team actually earned 2nd place in the Super Challenge event. And each team, like they said, read 20 books for the competition. This is just kind of a big event, and they had different activities, but this is our 2nd year. First year, we just did 1 grade level set, and we added this, and we had a pretty good turnout. Kind of some upcoming events. One just to highlight we were going to have a ski day on the 27th, but we're missing snow up in Oakhurst and Badger Pass, so that is not happening at this point. I did kind of darken these two. I want to invite you all. We are having our winter showcase, which is like our talent show, on January 30th at the Yosemite High School Theater from 5:30 to 7:30. Would love to have any of you join us there. And then if you have an opportunity, it's a little closer to those of you in Fresno, at Madera South High School, our academic decathlon team who will be competing, but they will have what's called the Super Quiz. That's going on. That's open up to folks. That's at 12 o'clock. And then they have an awards ceremony at 1:30. If you're able to stop by, I'd love to have you there for that. And coming up, another one that's kind of a fun thing that we're doing. Our 2nd annual jump rope tournament will begin February 25th. And then, our 4th graders will be visiting Millerton Lake here coming pretty soon. So this is the winter showcase, which is also in our newsletter. And we have kind of a save the date. The leadership has chose the theme of the 50s prom, and that will be taking place a little later on coming up. Just a little background here. Mountain Home's at full capacity of 213 students. We currently have 40 students on our current lottery, still waiting to get in for this year, which is 29 families. And we even have folks that are missed the last lottery that are waiting to get in for this year. So what I'm telling folks that are inquiring now, the likelihood of having that many students drop out and new students coming in is kind of slim for this year. but encouraging them to look at for next year. Glacier just happens that semester. They run a little leaner. We have 83 students capacity right now, and we've lost a few students. So we do have space in our high school program. We have room for about 4 students right now. So that's it for my report. Are there any questions? And, feel free to scan the QR code for this exciting presentation.
Thank you.
All right.
Go on to the president staff liaison report.
All right, so we also ended the semester with some fun and games. We had our 3rd annual reindeer games, which was headed up by Julie Shiro and Shauna Adams this year. And so there's our order of events that we had for the week. We had an ornament hunt that was very competitive. Rock, paper, scissors tournament. And then on Wednesday was our create your own snow globe. So those are some of the top contenders for the snow globe contest there, featuring Mr. Hagan up on the top right. We also had a hot cocoa bar and a cookie exchange. So these are all staff community engagement. We also started the 100 hours outside challenge. So all sorts of, information and I'm sure you guys are well aware is coming out about the benefits of being outside. And so to kick it off, Nancy Flynn printed a bunch of these little color in organizational tools. So you color a piece of the picture and each piece counts for an hour of time outside. And so there's Mrs. Ganson Hoover kicking off her time with her kiddos outside doing a couple different events. And we did send out a form so we could look at participation as well.
I forgot to mention, we're doing that in Oakhurst for Mountain High School also.
And then keeping up with the Christmas spirit in the, right before break, we had our candy cane crew out. So we have, to help mitigate some of our traffic problems, we have a team of teachers that are outside, staff, it's not just teachers, I suppose, that are out helping, keep traffic moving in the parking lot during high traffic time, like the dropout on enrichment class days. So they have gone to having themed days and
music sometimes.
And music, yep. So they have all sorts of fun out there, which is really great. Keep things positive and moving and flowing. There were a couple building and safety updates. So we have now these privacy screens. This is just one picture of them, but they kind of go along Shaw there as well, hooking around the gate to just kind of add a little bit of more separation between, especially the bus stop and our kiddos right there by the gate during their outside time and lunch times. We also had four new Promethean boards installed and updates on another one. And then Melissa gave us some training on how to use some of the new features of them and connectivity. So there's she ran two staff trainings here at Endeavor at different times. So classroom teachers could see how to use the updates to the technology. Right, it's your turn.
Moving right along. So the following news is TK through 12. Last week, we had over 20 students go to our annual ski trip to China Peak.
You have snow there.
It's funny that
There's
Endeavor is
snow
doing
there.
more skiing.
Oh, but that is weird.
They're all there, having fun. And a big thank you to Christine Chug and Brooke Rada for organizing this annual trip. We had a wait list for participation too, so it's been a great event every year. And Mrs. Hammond's Music and Memory Project is shown here. This is where she takes middle school, I think she may have a couple of high school students to visit the growth. And these are patients and people that have Alzheimer's or some type of special care. And they did a visit. They go, I think, twice a month. They connect through music, and this time around they had Christmas themed activities, including music and candy canes. We also had in November our fall theater production, Smart as the Dickens. And so we had about 4 small short plays based on the stories of Charles Dickens. And we also had the variety music part where we had a variety of students participate in playing guitar or singing or dancing. We also had in December, the Hour of Code. We have this every year. And this is to give students access to current technology. And so they had, they joined, I guess there's 100 million students worldwide participating in the Hour of Code. So they joined in on that. We had the biggest turnout for this. I think over 60 students.
Yeah, it's almost 70 students, yeah.
70 students join in and do fun activities with Renee Johnson. She organized this event, as well as we had our technology team come and help and connect with the students in this way. In high school, we have our spring 2025 sports have kicked off with rock climbing. We have a parent volunteer, Chantal Fossey, and we have our coach, Jacob Mulick. They had their last competition this last Saturday, but this season runs a whole semester, and they have a competition once a month. So here are some pictures of our team in action. Then new to Endeavor, we have joined the Specialty School Sports League, and we have our very first Endeavor volleyball team. We have co-coaches, Jay Johnson and Shauna Adams. We have full teams in, for the boys and the girls, and they practice together. And we're getting ready for our first game next week. January 27th is our first game, I think, against University High School. We have a photography class, and these are water droplets on CD, refraction photography setting, and so really cool visuals for this one. And this is taught by Mrs. Turner. And one of our CTE pathways is entrepreneurship. They had a food truck event. Students created their own food truck business plans, menus, and social media posts to sell their business. The staff got to visit the event and invest in their favorite food truck idea, so they had to vote. And so they had a setup for their businesses. CJ Wilson from the Pay It Forward field trip at Fresno State here. This is a guest, they got to join in on this at Fresno State, the CT class. In elementary news, we had our spelling bee, and we have Emily Tarango first place, and then we have Annabelle Chuck second place, and Ellie Mae Patterson third place. And I think that was a winning word. We were highlighting Kids Gift Workshop, and I was actually part of when I was there working with my friend Joe. He was sharing riddles as we did our artwork. And we have our staff and Christmas spirit there, and some of our crafts, what they were working on. Our first Lego competition happened in December, and so here we have some pictures. They did not place, but they are eager to do the spring competition as they know what to do, and they're getting ready for that. Then we had our cinnamon roll fundraiser for our graduate students for the grad night, and they raised $700. And if any of you happen to be eating lunch February 12th, please go to the Habit. And they give us 20% on that fundraising event. Here we have some upcoming events. I want to showcase that we do have, it's again, I guess, University High School. So volleyball, University High School. We have another one Wednesday against Duncan High School. We have other things there, and I want to highlight National School Choice Week. This is, I think, our 4th year participating, and this is led by Delisa Coots, so we have a variety of things to highlight that we are a school of choice. Students can enter a contest, Why I Love My School. They can write or draw, and it's a competition. We have a school-wide art project, so every student is doing part of a big project. They either are doing the leaves, the footprints, and the stars, and we're gonna display that also. You'll see it next time. It usually comes out amazing. And what they're writing on their little parts is what is their unique dream or pathway in life? Or what do they want to do when they grow up and things like that. So it'll be really nice to see all of that. And then for teachers, we have a door contest. You can see the first one I saw on the right. This is a competition for teachers. I don't know the prize. But the theme is Endeavor to Grow. And then that whole week, we're running Spirit Day, so we'll have different dress up themes for each day. Monday is College Pride Day, Tuesday, Throwback to Kindergarten Day, Wednesday, Bright Futures Day, Thursday, Outdoor Explorer Day, and Friday, Back to the Future Day. So staff and students participate during that week and just highlight National School Choice Day. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all for your presentations. We appreciate all the work you put into them. It's always good to see you guys have going on. It always looks like a lot of fun. Okay, well, our next scheduled meeting is April 1st, 2025 at 3:15 p.m. That's April Fool's Day. So we'll see you then.
It's not a joke.
No joke. So at this time, well, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Jason Smith, motion to adjourn.
You hear a second?
Yes,
We are adjourned. Thank you very much. See you next time.
Thank you, everybody.
It is 5:30.
Thank you, Ian. Yeah, thanks everybody else along with today. Appreciate your patience for all that reporting.